This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
Kent?
Yes.
Jacob?
Yeah.
Do you guys know what happens when the inmates run the asylum?
I'm not sure.
No, I know this. You get that weird cereal.
What?
Sorry. You should just go on.
I was going to say, I think we're about to find out.
What was the guy who ran?
But also,
who was in the insane asylum?
Also, you get that weird cereal. I think he's meaning Kellogg's.
Kellogg's. No, the cornflakes. And
call back to our cereal show.
But grape nuts.
Yeah.
Jake, that is like the most inside of all inside jokes.
I was like, where are we going with this? But welcome to Baconsale. I am Joel.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Jacob, who can't remember the name of grape nuts.
That's actually... I think it's like in your personal bio.
It is. It should be.
So we'd like to thank you for listening to our Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark episode that we did last time.
So much
We had fun putting it together. Kent did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Audio editing after.
It was a labor of love.
He put in music. He put in sound effects. It sounded so much cooler.
I heard from a lot of people that is a tier 1 show if there ever was one.
Well, and I was amazed. Both
There was
sides.
some really strong, positive feedback.
Yeah.
He was nice.
People had flashbacks to their childhood. I remember Laura saying this was a total... Laura from Life on the Rocks, please. Said,
Seizures. They had seizures.
She said this is a flashback to my childhood and loved it. And then we had actually Miss McKenna Jane on Twitter said, I didn't realize how well I remembered these stories until I heard them again. It took me 10 years to get frickin' Harold out of my head, and now I'm going to have nightmares again.
She's so right, and it's frickin' Harold.
It's actually freaking Harold is what she said here. I was, I should clarify.
You were editing from frickin'.
From freaking to frickin'. I just read it wrong. But it was fun for us to do. We hope you enjoyed it as well. It's this season. It's just fun to kind of creep each other out.
Yes.
So we had fun with that. And we, who knows? Maybe we'll do like a part 2 where we do some more categories.
Is that why you're recording this episode in a mask?
Yes.
And we're in the dark.
It is freaky.
It makes me feel more secure.
We're in the dark still, by the way, guys.
Yeah, I don't know why we decided to keep the lights off
Is
again.
this a tradition?
Maybe it's a Halloween thing.
Someone light the candles.
But we also have some shout outs we'd like to give.
Yes, we do.
Because we have some new patrons. Whoop, 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 whoop.
That's the patron song?
Is the call, the patron call.
Patron call. Patrons assemble. No, we'd like to give a shout out to Jake Hunter. Jake, thank you for being a patron of
thanks,
Baconsale.
Jake.
Thanks, Jake.
Yeah.
Huh? Yeah. I
Also-
don't get to say that much.
I'm going to get your name right this time, Valerie. It's Valerie Ilguth.
Ilguth?
Ilguth. I said Ilguth
That
last
sounded
time.
right. That really
You
did.
said- when were you saying
like
her name?
Ilgut, because I said it on Radio Ronan.
On Radio
she's
Ronan.
also a patron there. But I said Ilguth, and she said it's like Ilgut, but with a...
There you go. We love it when you
Ilguth.
add pronunciations.
That's cool.
All right, Jacob, go pronounce that one.
Kimberly McEwen.
Well
Very
done.
Good
Well
job.
done.
Good job. And thank you, Kimberly, for being a patron of Baconsale.
Thanks, Kimberly.
Aw.
And then we have Mike Hales.
Mikey Hills.
Is it Mikey? It's
Mikey?
just Mike.
I call him Mikey
You know him?
on social media.
Oh, okay. But thank you, Mike.
Go,
Mike,
Mikey.
Mike, next time I'm calling you Mikey, just to make this
He's
legit.
like, no one but my mom calls me Mikey. Thanks a lot, Ken.
But thank you, Mike.
And then finally we have Paula Greenwell Mullis.
Thank you, Paula.
Thanks, Paula.
Yeah. So there we go.
All 5 this week. I'm really mad at the 5 of you, actually, because I was feeling really confident. I've had a lot of spare time to draw some pictures of people, and I've reached out to many of you. If
We
by
should
the way,
clarify, he's drawing pictures of people for a contest we're doing.
no, everyone who's a fan, I just draw. I stalk them and draw them. No, if you're a patron in this month, and I don't want to say too much about it because we have, but I am drawing you in a Halloween setting or theme, and so. If I haven't reached out to you, I will very soon, and get back to me because I'll be drawing these hopefully by the end of the month.
Yeah, you're really stressing Kent out. We've gotten several new patrons this month, and
He's lost so much weight.
Kent's behind. Yeah, like the hair's falling out, the weight's coming down,
And I have like lead poisoning as well now, which is
From
kind of
all of-
weird.
yeah, from all the-
Pencil
all the-
lead,
that's
but
weird.
yeah.
That's weird.
But yes, you have 9 days from the airing of this episode to be part of our contest, which is follow us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You could win Psycho on Blu-ray, become a patron, and you get a picture of you Halloweenified by Kent.
Indeed.
And you have a chance to win the ultimate Alfred Hitchcock collection on Blu-ray.
So good.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I want to say this again. So many people have been watching Hitchcock since our show.
Really?
Like, people have been texting me, and we've been getting messages saying they've watched... Aubrey Larson just said she watched Rear Window and loved
Awesome.
it. My brother just barely texted me right now and said he was watching To Catch a Thief. And so people are actually getting out and watching Hitchcock because of our episode, which makes me feel warm inside.
We're just very educational on this
Yeah,
show.
Oh, this is like a public
Inspiring.
service that we've done, honestly.
Do you like how Baconsale's inspiration is like, sit down. Just sit down and
Don't
watch
go-
a movie.
You don't need to go
watch things.
outside. Why would
Go to
you do that?
patreon.com/baconsale.
Pay us money
Watch
and then
Hitchcock.
sit down.
Daylight's for suckers.
Exactly. But let's move on, shall we?
Because that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Jacob?
Today is the Season of the Pitch Part 2, basically. I don't know what we're actually going to call it, but...
it's a working title.
Yes.
Working title. But this year, gentlemen, we've done the craziest thing, as you already intonated in your opening, which is we're going to read pitches from you, listener.
Well, because last year, Kent had an idea because he used up his pitch show.
Yes.
Because I don't like pitch shows.
Not at all. I have
to
earn them.
You do. And so he earned this, I believe, by going on the Rocket.
I think this one was a foot rub.
But no,
last year's, I had to watch the first season of Gilmore Girls.
Yes.
And then just right after, he's like, "If you go on the Rocket, because I'm a little bit scared of the Rocket at Lagoon." And I did it, and I earned this pitch show, which a year later I'm redeeming.
Yes. I can still picture your screaming face next to me.
Remember when it broke down?
And we had to sit there forever.
And we held hands.
But here's the thing is, so last year what we did was we came up with 3 different horror movie pitches where we talked about a reboot, an adaptation of an existing work, and then an original pitch.
Yes.
And it turned out really well. Like
I love that
we
episode.
creeped ourselves out. I listened to it again and I got pretty scared. But then people were saying, hey, I have an idea for a pitch. And then we thought, well, maybe next year we kind of open up the gates.
Yeah. And this episode's going to be way worse than that one. So let's move on.
Well, you're throwing the listener under the bus just like that?
Yeah.
So what we decided to do is we opened the doors and we allowed anyone who wanted to submit a pitch, a family-friendly pitch.
Yes.
About around 5 minutes. And we got a variety. We actually got a ton of responses. We're not going to be able to read them all on the show because it's going to run long anyway. We're going to fit in as many as we can.
Yep.
But we are going to be pitching for you by proxy. We're going to each take turns reading a pitch and then reacting to the pitch as if it were our own. Now, what that means is the person pitching is going to give their fair shake and trying to make it sound good. But that also means that you are pitching to Baconsale, which means Kent's going to be really critical.
Like I just
was. Joel's going to be over here in the corner cracking jokes the whole time. Listen to me, silly. And then Jacob's going to be like, this makes no sense. So that's
about
Jake
right.
will be chomping on grape nuts during the story.
Yes.
Yeah. You'll never hear that. You guys won't hear anything else if I do that.
Exactly.
Actually.
Yeah.
But if you make it to the end of this show, and I think you should. You feel like you're already going there?
You're going there.
You laughed. You're an accomplice. If you make it to the end of the episode, you're going to hear an original pitch or a pitch by Joel and myself.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into it.
Let's do it.
Okay. So who's going first?
I'm first, gentlemen.
And there's a lot of reading, so bear with us.
It is. Think of it like the last time we read stories. So let's get in the mood of pitches. So Jacob, why don't you tell us who you're pitching for and what the pitch is?
For the very first pitch, I will be representing Drew Cutler. He actually submitted a few, and then after he heard our requirement for just one pitch, he suggested or requested just this one.
I think he chose the wrong one.
Actually, I'd have to agree with you. There is another one, which honestly I could just read that one
if we
instead.
have time, we'll get to later.
We won't have time.
He chose this one.
Okay, he chose this one. Ashland is the title. The setting, Ashland, Oregon town, with lots of vegetables, vagabonds, wanderers, and homeless people along with progressive, rich elites. Actors in the Oregon Shakespeare Festival and tourists there to see plays, ski, and mountain bike.
Very specific.
It is extremely specific.
Like he knows Ashland, Oregon.
I think he just made this up. Next is main character.
Wow.
And we have a very long paragraph on the main character, and then we get to the story. Okay, let's get through this. David Cox, a graduate school historian, moves to Ashland to study at OSU and work on thesis and enjoy the marijuana culture of Southern Oregon.
Family friendly.
Already.
Tell Drew Cutler.
You are Drew Cutler. You're representing.
I am. You know what? This is just honest of the culture there, Joel.
There you
okay.
Go. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
A lot of weed.
Pitch it like you mean it.
All right. He soon's become interested in the history of Ashland's founding.
Who wouldn't?
Indeed. Right.
Me.
One story that interests the main character is that of the murder of Dr. Sisson.
Let's call him Sisson.
The murder of Dr. Sisson.
Vidal
Sisson moved to Ashland in 1856. By 1858, the Sisson was quite successful, while the founder of Ashland, Abel Hellman, was losing his wealth. In March 1858,
now,
not 19.
This sounds like a history lesson. Is this real?
This is just the main character. In March 1858, Sisson was attacked and shot in the hand, but his attacker was never arrested. Then, about a week later, his barn was burned down. A few weeks later, he was shot again. This time he died.
Oh, that was abrupt.
Yeah, that was actually a run-on sentence too. A few days after
He's editing as he's reading.
I can't help it. A few days after his death, his home was burned and his wife and newborn child escaped. However, they were left homeless and over the following decades lived in a destitute lifestyle. Their property was sold or rezoned and ended up in the hands of Abel Hellman. That jerk. Nobody was ever arrested or tried for the crimes. The daughter tried to sue Hellman, but when she grew up, the case was thrown out by the judge.
Now we're into this story, right?
I don't know. It doesn't.
I think so. I think this is.
I think so.
Proceed.
Okay. David is convinced by his friends, actors, and other free spirits to hold a seance to talk to Dr. Cezanne. They make contact and tell Dr. Cezanne about the fate of his wife and child. He knows who the killer was, but he doesn't just blame his killer, but all of Ashland for not taking care of his family and not stressing his killer.
Not stressing his killer?
What does that mean? He doesn't want his killer to be stressed,
Don't
Joel.
kill your stressors.
I don't know.
Don't stress your killers.
I don't know what I'm saying here.
Who it is, the identity, like that is that the biggest.
Not stressing his killer.
Yes.
You're pitching for him, remember?
I should have looked at this more closely before, so I could have an argument ready.
No, come on, keep going.
He gets angry and escapes the spirit world to possess a body. The possession is made easier when someone is high on weed.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
This is a direct quote.
This story got awesome.
All this is direct quotes.
Over the following days and nights, Cezanne sets fires in stores downtown where his home once stood and at the football stadium where his farm once was. People die in the fires. One of the bodies he possesses, a homeless man, is arrested, and during the arraignment, he begins screaming accusations at the judge, whose name is Hellman, and tried to attack him.
Oh, I read that as Helaman at first. Yes.
No, Hellman.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pun on hell.
Abel Hellman.
Hellman
Yeah.
also
But it's
has
one L.
armies. Yes.
Mayonnaise.
All right. What? David and his friends try to bring Cezanne's ghost back, but can't. They then find out the only way to stop Cezanne is to kill the body while Cezanne is inhabiting it. So now, instead of Cezanne killing people accidentally through fire...
Accidentally?
Yep, it was an
He
accident.
lit them on fire.
It was an accident. David and his friends become killers of innocent people, always just a little too late.
Okay, so this is kind of like maybe Frailty, where they're trying to kill.
Frailty and Fallen. Have you seen Fallen with
I
Denzel
haven't seen
Washington?
Fallen, no, but they're trying to kill people.
That was creepy.
But they're killing innocent people because they think they're bad people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They shoot a homeless man in the head near a bike path.
I feel like that's. Hold on. Excuse me.
He had it coming, I guess, for being possessed.
Right.
I thought you were going to say a vagabond for being poor.
Oh man.
No, Kent, that's not what I would say.
Okay, go on.
All right. Using a sword from the prop closet, they chop the head off of another person.
Wow.
Why does it need to be from a prop closet?
Always too late. Yeah, why does it? Okay. That makes it more interesting. Finally, they capture a person possessed by Cezanne using a variety of hexes and lots of weed. Seriously? And take lots of weed to an abandoned cabin on Dead Indian Road. There they tie him up and set the cabin on fire, leaving him to burn alive, and so that no one is around for Cezanne's ghost to escape to. The end?
Oh, that's the end.
Period.
Okay.
But is it? Question mark. It turns out that the man who was burned had a wife and newborn daughter. The wife is a doctor who goes by her maiden name, Cezanne. Story based on true events. Though I took some liberties with adapting when the deaths occurred, etc., you can read about them here.
And then he has some links below about that.
So my question
So
for you.
it's based on actual events.
Yes.
then?
So in fact,
Like the founding of Ashland.
In fact, here's the link. Right, a homeless man shot, decapitation of store clerk, and man buried in the cabin in woods.
But here's what I want to know: weed. Does it make you more likely to get possessed?
There was a strong weed theme going through this, but I
think you're just trying to play the organ a little bit.
As you're pitching this, I have to say it was kind of hard to follow. Like, I don't know why, but for some reason, as I was going through it, I'm like,
there was a little bit of struggle with the narrative flow here, but
I get what they're going for.
And he's going with some real events.
It's a revenge horror movie where the guy's seeking revenge. He possesses other bodies, and then people try to stop him. That's
So if you guys were to see this movie and you like David Cox is your main guy, right? Would you see flashbacks throughout of Cezanne and Hellman, or would that just be one scene of exposition that's about 7 minutes long?
I see it opening with
the opening.
I see the
okay.
opening with the Hellman and Cezanne thing, and then moving into the story.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because it's got to be a brief thing. I don't think there's enough substance in the past to really keep going back there.
Right. Okay.
And it's not a mystery of who's possessing or what he's after. It's more the horror that happens when he.
So this is straight up rated R. I mean, if you're getting a sword from the prop closet,
and weed, lots of weed.
Yeah, chopping off heads, shotguns to homeless people.
Yeah.
Jake, you gonna greenlight this?
This is for all of us. It's Baconsale approved, green light or not green light. So I'm going to say not green light because it was hard to follow. I think it needs some work, dog. And
work, dog?
He's Randy Jackson
pitchy.
in this case.
Yeah.
I really like your outfit.
So you're Paula?
I'm Paula. I'm going to give it a green light because there is something there. This is the part of America that we don't really have a lot of horror stories come from.
From Oregon?
From Oregon. And the weed thing maybe can't be focused on too much because we still need like everyone to really relate to it. But I will give it a green light.
Drew, I'm not giving this one a green light, but that's just because
You're a harsh judge.
I'm a
Never
harsh
give
judge,
green lights.
and there's other pitches in here that I would, but not this
Oh,
one.
so you're giving like a specific number of green lights.
No, of his pitches. He sent 3.
Oh, yeah.
This
Okay.
one wouldn't get a green light, but that's not to say the other ones would not.
Okay.
And just between us, Drew, other ones would.
Okay.
Okay, guys, the next story is from Todd Callan.
Next pitch, please.
The next pitch from Todd Callan. There is no title with this story. So we're just going to have to go with it. Maybe you guys can help me with the title.
Maybe Todd
a little
Callan
after.
is the title.
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe.
it's actually Todd Callan, the kid that I grew up with in my neighborhood here in Farmington.
Yeah.
A woman was admitted to the Alzheimer's unit on the top floor of a nursing home. There was only one door to get in or out, and it was controlled by a locking system to prevent the residents from escaping. This woman looked incredibly old, even for a nursing home. She had dirty white hair and dry. It was dry, guys. She was not using shampoo.
Was she a nursing home? Because it sounds like she's the nursing home.
No, she was in.
Okay.
But she had dirty white hair, a toothless smile, wide cloudy eyes from cataracts, and clothes that looked to be 100 years old or probably hadn't been washed in years.
She'd make a great guest on our show.
Really? I'd probably ask her out, to be honest.
So we're going to say we've seen that type in horror movies
Yes.
before. It's the old creepy woman character.
Yeah, with the wispy white hair.
Yeah.
The staff got right to work cleaning her up and dressing her in a hospital gown. The whole time she was shrieking in protest with a high-pitched European accent.
Which European country? That's a mystery.
Yeah, just
Me personally, I'd like to imagine French.
French?
French, no.
Yes.
Not
Dutch.
even Austrian?
Dutch.
It's very fancy. Although old and frail, I just want to hear that throughout the story as they're screaming. Okay, Joel?
I feel like we need to kind of like we need to make these pitches a little more like
Well, there will be scary music.
okay.
Although old and frail looking, she struck one of the employees, knocking him to the ground. The staff immediately restrained and sedated her. For days she laid in bed, sedated, mumbling words that no one understood. J'accuse! Can we get a translator in here? After a week, they decided to take away the sedation and see how she responded. That evening, she emerged from her room, hunched over with a pronounced limp. She hobbled over to the living room and started going from patient to patient, grasping their hands and whispering into their ears.
Yeah.
In French, by the way. That's all that she knows how to say. By the way, this story is now called J'accuse. After she had done this to each of the patients, she went back to her room. As the sun set and everyone was going to bed, the power went out. One of the nurses named Jenny heard strange noises from the older woman's room and went to check on her. Jenny found her standing in the middle of the dark room, talking to herself in a strange language, different from her earlier.
Oh.
It doesn't say language, but from her earlier.
Earlier language.
Yes.
Yes.
Suddenly, the woman's eyes started to glow pure white, while Janie ran out of the room screaming, but her screams were hardly heard. Once an outbreak of crying and wailing broke out among the patients. Jenny ran and hid in her favorite patient's room, a sweet old lady named Meredith. The nurse was terrified to see that Meredith's eyes were also glowing white.
Ew.
Without warning, projectile vomit spewed out of Meredith. Sorry, family friendly. Kids?
We've already gotten to weed in the first pitch, I think.
Spraying the walls with an unnatural volume. Dude, Todd.
Oh my gosh.
J'accuse.
I love that.
Oh, no, it's a different language now.
Oh, yeah.
A marinara.
The real question is, how much volume
No,
is
don't say
natural?
marinara with spewing.
That's what it is.
Marinara? Oh my gosh.
Marinara spewing in a
It's
natural
a
volume.
European accent.
But how much is a natural amount of volume is what I want to know.
I mean, I think even saying volume is enough of vomit at the wall, but an unnatural volume.
Maybe it means it's really loud when it hits the wall.
Get back to the
turn
pitch.
to 11.
I'm intrigued.
Janie ran to the room across the hall. It was empty. But how could this be? Mr. Brown can't walk. There's Mr. Brown now, by the way. Just then, Jenny noticed a small light coming from the ground. It was Mr. Brown's glowing eyes. He grabbed her legs from under the bed. She fell to the ground and only managed to escape after several swift kicks. She rushed out of Mr. Brown's room and into the halls and ran over to the other nurses and staff members that had gathered around the exit trying to get out. It was locked. Just like the patients, they were not free to leave. They ran to the windows, but there was nowhere to go. They were on the top floor.
Dun, dun, dun.
The patients emerged from their rooms into the dark halls and bright glowing eyes and possessed looks on their faces. All heck! broke loose.
Yeah, thank you, Todd, for putting
yeah, and it's in caps.
Heck
by
in
the way.
all caps. I appreciate that.
Heck,
This is
I
for
almost
you.
fixed that,
I
but I was
appreciate
just because I was mad at you, Todd, for putting heck. But anyways,
I like
It
it.
was pretty funny.
all heck broke loose as the patient started attacking the staff with what seemed like superhuman strength and speed. The staff started scrambling every which way to escape their attackers. As Jenny was fleeing, she saw the old witch limping down the hall, moving her hands about as if she was directing the orchestra.
That's creepy imagery right
Yeah.
there.
Her eyes locked onto Jenny and started pursuing her, or perusing her.
It says perusing.
It's perusing.
Perusing her?
I perused a lot of women in my time.
He means pursuing. I'm pretty sure he means pursuing.
So when I pursue a woman, am I really perusing
It
a woman?
depends. It depends.
Janie ran the opposite direction. This is like the scariest part of the story. We just ruined it.
No, but it's creepy. But we're lightening the mood.
Janie ran the opposite direction to the kitchen, but now she was cornered. She looked at the stove and had an idea. She grabbed the wooden broom from the closet and went to the stove and lit it on fire. She ran toward the woman, striking her with a flaming broom. She burst into flame, much more than Janie expected.
She was expecting a little bit of flame.
It was a natural volume of flame.
As the witch burned, the lights turned back on, and Jenny saw that her co-workers had opened the exit door. As Jenny set off for the exit, she looked back and saw the white eyes of the witch piercing her soul as the witch whispers her last words. 30 minutes later, the owner of the building, Mr. Scott, walked into the Alzheimer's unit and found the fire department hard at work. The head fireman approached Mr. Scott, telling him the fire had not reached any of the patient's rooms and that everyone was accounted for except for the patient in room 109. Our newest resident, said Mr. Scott. As they walked past 109, they noticed a girl sitting on the bed with her back turned towards them. Mr. Scott looked at the fireman as he took a step back and said, "No one was in there earlier." As Mr. Scott walked in and approached the young woman, he noticed it was his employee. "Jenny, is that you?" In an instant, the lights went out. Again, Jenny slowly turned her head around, revealing white, glowing eyes. Who is Jenny? Yeah!
Okay, so this one, I have to admit, the idea...
That ended like a scary story to tell in the dark.
Yeah, and I like that. Well, and I like the idea, like the whole thing of just... it's terrifying to think of a nursing home
Yes.
where the patients are all possessed. Like, for some reason, that just is scary. Also, I like the concept of a witch... A real witch with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So she doesn't really know or understand.
Well, it's like an unpredictable, like scary force, right?
Yeah, you don't. It's
It
like
is.
yeah, and it also is kind of a deeper. If you want to take a deeper meaning at it, it's actually kind of looking at how we treat older people and the mental states of older people.
Yes.
And I think there's layers here. I'm going to greenlight it.
I'm going to greenlight it too. I think I came up with a really good pitch there.
Yeah, good job, Todd.
I would peruse that all the way to Hollywood.
I would
Peruse
accuse
the
you
heck
of
out of that.
stealing it.
So are we calling that j'accuse or an unnatural volume?
Unnatural volume for sure.
By the way, that is my Vidal Sassoon. Vidal Sassoon.
That's your shampoo?
Vidal, or is a
Sassoon.
natural volume. Yes.
Okay.
Jacob, are you going to greenlight that?
You know, I think I will actually. Like just based off the idea of an old woman that has, Alzheimer's and doesn't know she has power. Like,
Right.
yeah, there's
Would it be a
something to
slow burn where, like, maybe you think certain people, like, it doesn't really seem like a scary movie up until like the last 10 minutes. It just puts you at unease.
Well, this one goes 0 to 60.
that? No,
It does.
if I were to set that up, it would be events start occurring and you're not sure whether you're watching from the perspective of. I would have an unreliable narrator is what I would do for that.
Okay, great.
And then you'd watch from the perspective of someone who's admitted into the place, and then you would have to learn and see and try to decide if it were real.
That's
or
really
not.
good.
I will be pitching for Chad Illam. And he says, feel free to change, summarize, or adjust or edit as you see fit. So I think that means commentary is allowed in this one, gentlemen.
So we can poke fun.
He said, I jotted down quickly as the idea came to me. He says the dad will be played by Gerard Butler. The mom will be played by Isla Fisher.
All right.
And then we need a young actress that is undetermined as of yet. It's called Wrath. And Marco Beltrami would do the music, and
cool.
John Krasinski would direct.
That's
John
interesting.
Krasinski. After A Quiet Place, everyone wants him.
Right. Everyone wants to peruse him.
It had been a hard few years for Alice. Her mother had left, her father had gone into depression, and she had been shouldering much of the responsibility at home. At age 12, she already felt she had been living on her own. Her father was a good man who had the misfortune of trusting a woman more than she deserved. After 6 months after mother had left, he purchased a cabin in northern Montana. Thinking the fresh air would clear his head, he moved them to a cabin. Alice hated it there. There were no neighbors for miles and no one even close to her age nearby. The closest town was an hour away. It was so small it only had basic amenities. So it's like living in Provo.
Oh,
It's basically where I grew up.
The land her father had purchased was picturesque, and she often would go on hikes alone, admiring the plants and animals along her path.
is this a story of Jacob? Like, honestly, that's all Jacob did for his childhood.
Father warned her not to go alone as they were in bear country. Jacob didn't live in bear country.
There are grizzlies there.
We're there?
They're really rare, but
Oh, so there's,
Really?
it's not bear country.
no.
Not where Jacob was, no, but here we are. I lost my place.
Let's talk about bear country.
Oh,
Yo,
bear
Turks.
country. But she didn't really care about his opinion. If she got eaten by a grizzly, fine.
What?
That's
Who says that?
That's what
Who has that attitude? You know, if I am lower on the food chain than a monster, than an animal, fine.
Who was he to tell her what to do? He had barely been able to feed himself for months after Mother left, let alone shower or shave, like he was someone to speak about responsibility. One day he decided to join her. Let's go for a camp out. I've got s'more stuff. It'll be fun, he said in a forced
S'more
voice.
stuff is really fun, let's be honest.
It is.
I do like
Let's do
s'mores.
that after this recording.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, there's a new fire over there in the corner.
Oh, look at the
Did you see
fire
that?
pit. When'd you install that?
It actually just comes from the ground. It's actually a chasm that goes down.
Oh,
What?
And it opens up.
I don't remember any chasms.
It's pretty crazy.
That's pretty
Didn't
cool.
install that.
She could tell he was just trying to reconnect with her. Normally, she would have gone and went off in a huff to her room. However, the seclusion had gotten old, and she wanted so badly to have her old dad back. Maybe this was the start of making his way back. They grabbed their backpacks and hiked for a few hours before finding a small clearing near sundown. Alice started gathering firewood while her father set up the tent and made a small fire pit. The sunset and the night sky came alive. Stars were her favorite part of her new existence. The heavens were breathtaking with the glitter that shined down on her. I feel like we're just spending a lot of time getting her emotions.
Is
Like,
this from
where's
the same
scary Chad?
Who wrote The Fault in Our Stars?
John Green?
John Green. This seems like a John Green
going
sort
John
of book.
Green, huh?
It's like, what are you afraid of? Oblivion. The stars are my new favorite part of my existence.
All right. She probably stood there watching too long. It was the first of her mistakes that night. An hour or so had passed while she was entranced by the night sky. That's a long time to be staring at a sky.
I think he's just setting up the mood and the character a little bit here.
The mood right now, though, is more romantic than...
Yeah. I'm loving it. I'm
yeah.
looking for constellations right here.
We are.
You're perusing the
some constellations. Yeah.
By the time she got back, her father already had a fire going and had dug into the s'more stuff. He had fallen asleep with a marshmallow roasting over a fire, and it had burned to an ashen lump.
Those are my favorite marshmallows to eat, by the way.
Ashen lumps?
The fiery ones.
Yeah.
The ashen lumps.
Hoisting his arm over her shoulder, she tried to help him to their tent. As she turned, she heard a rustling in the bushes behind their tent.
No, that's never good.
She dropped her dad to the ground and slowly moved towards his bag by the fire pit. Sorry, I just imagine her just dropping him. He would have bear spray there, maybe even a pistol she could use to defend herself. Before she reached the bag, the creature stood up. Tall, gaunt, with pale white skin and black pits for eyes.
It's Gint.
What? Oh, hold on. Tall, gaunt. Okay.
Pale
Sure.
white skin, black pits for eyes.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Doll's eyes.
Guys, this is the creepy part. Stop. Its body was emaciated with a strange inhuman frame that was too skinny for how tall it was, with ribs and bones poking out from the skin. The ghoul stalked forward. Her dad had woken up when she dropped him and laid on his back, propped up on his arm, staring at the hateful monster that was descending slowly upon him, growling in a low rumble. Could it see him? The thing didn't have eyes from what she could see, but so much of this monster's build defied any earthly description she could think of. Step by step it moved forward, long claws raking the ground as it moved, deathly black claws with gnarled chunks haphazardly broken out of them. She couldn't even hear her father scream as it gnashed through his torso.
Jeez.
Yikes. All sound had gone in her hysteria, and it was all she could do to reach into the bag, grab the handgun her father had placed there, and unload the clip into its skeletal body. The demon fled, taking her father's body with it.
Okay.
She waited for hours until daylight before sprinting back to the cabin.
Remember when it was just a romantic story?
I know. The stars are so beautiful.
She called the only neighbor she knew, an older couple who rushed to her with the sheriff. She would be okay, they said, but, well, of course she'd be okay. But they would take care of her and get her back to her family.
She's not going to be okay.
She descended into depression, they said, but she knew better. This was no depression. It was what fear did to the soul. They never found her father's body, never found any signs of struggle. They
Not
never even
blood?
found any blood at the site.
That answers my question.
She didn't know how that was possible. Her father must have gone off and killed himself, they said, or abandoned her. She knew the truth, a truth she could never tell. No one would believe her. Years had passed, and she had studied desperately, searching for a name for the monster she had seen, that had torn everything she had left in this world from her, searching for a way to get even with it. She finally found a name in an old Indian lore book. Wendigo. 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 Finally, a name, something to begin with. she would find her Wendigo and avenge the last thing that she had loved. Wendigo. Wendigo.
Chad also referred to season 1, episode 2 of Supernatural.
Where do you come from, Wendigo? Cotton Eye Joe.
My fiery feet, my burning feet of fire. Okay, so this one, I feel like it was too front heavy, and then I wanted to, like, I wanted the thing to start when they're camping and then go from there.
It seems like the origin story for a demon hunter.
It does. Like, that thing is, it's a scary moment.
Yes.
But it doesn't seem like a full horror movie to me, because it's like, oh, she's going to go hunt him and revenge. Is that the end of the movie, or is this all the beginning of the movie?
In the Supernatural episode, the Wendigo actually imitates their voices to call them away from the campsite.
Yes.
And that has always creeped me out.
Well, and one thing I will say as a strength here is that the description of the demon.
Absolutely.
And actually, was that him that had that picture?
Well, he's got a good narrative flow here as well.
No, and that's the thing is, it's a good story, but I feel like I don't know if I can greenlight it, because the creepy part leads into kind of an end, and I wanted that to be kind of the beginning. So I'm saying not greenlit from me.
So I think this is the first half of a movie, and I can't greenlight this at this point.
You know, I wouldn't greenlight it as a movie, but I would greenlight a reworking of this as a story.
I would greenlight this as a podcast, as a journey that this girl is going to go on.
But as a demon hunter, hunting the Wendigo.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Her description of her pursuits, people that she talks about, other people that have been attacked.
I would greenlight it in several narrative
like
forms.
missing
but just
people and
not
whatnot.
a movie, though. Not a movie.
Yeah, different format, not quite a movie yet.
I think the movie would be, like, I think it'd be better suited the movie to be the stalking and being hunted that night and her just trying to survive.
Yes.
I don't know, but it feels like it needs more. There's something missing.
Yes.
I don't know what.
But
It's just the pilot.
A solid origin. It's a pilot. Exactly.
Yeah.
The next story up, I will be representing. It is by Brian Thatcher. This one is called Black Omen. Synopsis. Note, though I will use Baconsale names in the synopsis, this is meant to be a serious film. It's just in my nature to insert humor where none really belongs.
I understand that.
Perfect.
In the middle of the night, Joel wakes up in bed and looks around his room, feeling uneasy.
Perfectly normal.
It's because I'm there. As he looks toward the doorway, he sees the shape of a large dog, blacker than the night around it.
Ooh, I like that.
As Joel looks at it, he notices to his horror that the shadow dog appears to be missing its head.
What?
Although headless, Joel swears he can hear it growling.
Growing. It says growing right here.
It does say growing. I assume since he's hearing it, it's
Okay.
he can hear it growing.
We can't get after people for typos.
It's just an L. The shadow dog stands motionless for a few more seconds, then suddenly takes a flying leap at Joel. Joel lets out a yell as he descends toward him, only to disappear at the last moment.
I disappear, or
The dog.
The dog, yeah. Shaken, Joel writes it off as a bad dream and eventually falls back to sleep.
Pretty tough guy. Jeez.
I am.
You're like, that was just a bad dream, headless dogs. I can hear it growing. In the morning, Joel wakes up and goes through his normal routine of getting ready for work, bidding his wife and 15 kids goodbye. That was like 2010.
Yeah, exactly.
Joel gets in his car and heads to the office. Along the way, he is in a horrible car accident and ends up dying at the scene. Well, Joel's dead.
Brian. It was just a dream.
Over the course of the next 10 days, 3 more people die from accidents and what appear to be natural causes, such as heart attacks. Sheriff Casey Dunn
Nothing to see here.
Casey Dunn
goes over the accident reports and
Your
can't
middle
help.
name is C, right? It
Yeah.
starts with a C.
Will you just make this a requirement for next year? If they put anything up, it has to be us.
Our
as the
names?
characters.
I'm having a hard time taking it seriously, but yeah.
Casey Dunn goes over the accident reports and can't help but have an uneasy feeling. In his small North Dakota town of Pine Mountain, population of about 6,000.
Very specific.
Things are usually quiet, and people only get in trouble when they drink too much. As far as deaths go,
No weed here in this town.
no weed here.
In Pine Mountain.
Must be Jacob Rogers.
There has not been a murder in ages, and only the old seem to pass away when their time is up. As he is thinking, he gets a radio call.
Wait, Alzheimer's, go.
Alzheimer's. As he is thinking, he gets a radio call from Deputy Jake Rogers, letting him know, I'm a deputy.
Oh, come on.
My right-hand man.
Buddy,
It's
the
the
buddy
sheriff?
cop thing
Hey,
with
Jake,
Jacob?
Jake.
You don't have a voice anymore, Joel. You're dead.
We get the power.
We do. I mean, number 2 power.
Hear me grow.
Letting him know that they have been notified of a situation going on at a residence. Sheriff Dunn sets off to assist. At the scene, the police force
Are you getting an accent, Jacob?
At the scene, the police force out
Deputy Rogers.
I'm getting into character. Getting into character, Joel. At the scene, the police force of about 10, including the sheriff and deputy, are outside a home. Inside, they can hear a man yelling and a woman crying. As the police prepare to storm the home, they hear the man yelling about seeing a headless dog and accusing his wife of messing with his head.
Whoa.
The police storm the home, and in the shootout, the man is killed. After calming her down, the sheriff questions his wife. She said that her husband had gone into the room to get dressed, and then about a minute later came running out.
A minuet later.
A minuet later. And then about a minuet later.
Jerks. We're such jerks to call people's typos.
Guys, spell check. Seriously. Yeah. Actually, minuet's a word.
Maybe they played a minuet. Maybe they just had time to play a minuet, and then they went and checked on it.
Yeah.
Came running out, yelling and ranting about a large, black, headless dog. I thought it said heedless dog for a second. Headless dog attacking him and started accusing her of trying to get rid of him. Thinking the man must have been on something.
Weed.
Yep. Some of his blood is sent away to be tested.
Or an autopsy. Whatever.
Whichever. Some of his blood. Yeah, it should probably just be his body.
No, hey, we in the Pine Mountain Sheriff's Department, we don't really do our due diligence here.
I just send off the blood.
There's some blood on the floor. Pick it up.
A few more days go by and things continue to get worse. More victims mention seeing headless dogs before they die. Dunn and Rogers, we're a duo now.
I love
Country
that.
team.
Realize that there is something more going on than just a string of bad luck. Having run out of logical options, they turn to paranormal causes. This path takes them to talking to an old Native American who lives on the edge of town. Upon talking to him, they learn that his tribe once lived on the land and told a legend of a great evil that once roamed the area and preyed upon the tribe.
Liking this so far?
Eventually, a holy man was able to bless a warrior with the ability to repel and seal away evil. Since that time, the warrior's descendants inherited the power and kept the evil at bay. However, the old Native American is the last of the warrior's descendants, and as he grows older and weaker, the seal holding back the evil grows weaker.
Okay.
And is currently allowing the shadow dogs to roam the town. There's more than one. The Native American...
Do you have a name for those, Jacob? Hellhounds.
Hellhounds,
Yeah,
they do, yeah. The Native American, Sheriff Dunn, and Deputy Rogers begin to talk and work on a plan to reestablish the seal. But they are on the clock.
Because they punched in?
They punched in.
9 to 5.
We're not on salary, Dunn.
It's Pine Mountain, man.
Honestly, if you guys are going to form a band, I think it should be Rogers and Dunn.
Yeah, Rogers and Dunn has better ring to it.
Yeah, than
Does
Dunn
it?
and Rogers.
Yes.
Dunn and Rogers doesn't sound as good as Rogers and Dunn.
All right. Kent should probably be the headliner, though. Well, Dunn and
thanks,
Rogers...
pal.
Yeah,
You have a beautiful singing voice, Jacob.
that's so true. If you like pain.
We're on the clock. We're on the clock.
While Dunn and Rogers work on a plan, tension in the town is growing to explosive levels.
It's growling.
Should be growling.
That's growling.
I think you said groaming, actually.
With so many people dying and reports of demon dogs going around, people have become afraid to leave their homes. And as they get low on needed supplies and have needs that cannot wait, food, medicine, prescriptions, needing to see the doctor, ER visits, or dentists, and other needs.
That's a lot.
Why did he give a list?
I'm not sure.
There's a lot of things.
Yeah. They start to blame their neighbors, family members, and or unpopular locals for their situation. People begin to attack each other for supplies to vent frustration and or out of desperate attempt to end the madness. As damage is done, fires burn, electricity goes out, and many emergency personnel are afraid to do their jobs. With each passing hour, the town gets closer to straight anarchy. Finally forming a plan, the KC.
The KC?
You're the KC now.
KC and Jake.
I got promoted.
Jake and the Fat Man.
Wait, why is it KC? Kent?
His middle name
Kent
starts with a
Clark.
C. It's
Oh,
not
is it?
Clark.
Yeah, it is. Go on.
And Jake head to the source of the evil. Upon finding it, they have a showdown with the evil in human form as well as others.
Can I play the evil at this point? Because
Yes.
I've been dead for a while.
You've
You
been
could be the
ensemble
evil form.
lately, so now you can play
In
the
the
evil.
human form, yeah.
Yeah.
In the end, Sheriff Dunn makes the ultimate sacrifice
No!
and gives his life to mend the seal.
No.
He died saving the world a lot.
Okay, I'll take that.
Deputy Jake heads back to town. He gets a burger, has some fries,
You didn't
talks
say
with
that.
some people.
Read the script.
Oh, okay. Deputy Jake heads back to town to set things back in order, knowing that the seal will eventually weaken again.
There you go.
Okay.
The end. All right, so he wants Christopher Nolan to direct this.
Well,
that's just because
he gives Kent the main role and makes Christopher Nolan director.
Kent's the sheriff. So, and he wants David Harbour to be Sheriff Dunn, which is pretty fun.
From Stranger Things.
Stranger Things sheriff guy.
Yeah. That's actually pretty good.
I'm Jeremy Renner. All right, I can take that. And Peter Dinklage is Joel. No, the human form of the evil entity demon.
So who's Joel? Who gets to play Joel?
I just die.
Christopher Lambert.
It's just Joel plays himself and he dies.
It's a brief cameo by Brad Pitt.
What did you do to Brian, Joel, is really the question.
Don't
here.
So here's
sorry,
the thing.
Brian. Jeez.
This is about 3 to 4 different movies because I had like a riot at some point. Like it really did turn into like World War Z. You know, it started off with the basic Hellhound story, mysterious deaths, almost like a Final Destination. And then there was this like Indian burial ground sort of thing. It was just too many movies.
It does run around a lot of different places. There's some really good moments in it, though.
There are.
I'm still going to greenlight it though because I like that concept of there's a warrior that keeps the evil away, and as they get weaker, the evil starts creeping in, and then until a new warrior takes the place, it's going to keep seeping into our world. I like that concept.
Okay.
So I'm saying greenlight.
I would almost make it more Native American, where it's like a skinwalker is maybe leading these hellhounds.
We'll get into those.
Okay, but I would greenlight that aspect. I think take away from the whole riots of the town, remove that from the movie completely.
Okay.
I would greenlight just the headless hellhounds or demon dogs or whatever.
Well, okay, so I have to admit that the
Being like harbingers of
the
doom.
headless aspect is almost less scary because the scariest part of a dog is like the glowing eyes or the teeth.
How's it going to bite you?
Well, that's what I mean. Is like it's basically this little stump chasing after you. It doesn't seem as scary. But apparently it's based on real folklore.
Okay.
Of these headless dogs that people have been seeing.
Maybe its neck is a mouth.
Yeah, the black dog or ghost.
As long as it's not too CG. And Nolan won't ever direct this. I'm sorry. All right. I'm going to read the next one, and it's called Casey Finlinson.
That's the person who's giving the pitch. We'll come up with the name as we go through.
Okay, here we go.
It says, okay, here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Ryan, Nate, and Kyle have their own urban exploration YouTube page where they go...
3 guys. Why can't it just be our names?
I know. Their own YouTube page where they go all over the country exploring old abandoned buildings.
I call Kyle.
I'm Nate.
I'll be Ryan.
Sucker.
I like being Ryan. Oh. On their latest video, a commenter by the name of DDW, Deep Dark Web, left them longitudinal and latitudinal coordinates to an old abandoned cabinal in the middle of an old ponderosa pine forest with a comment, "At your own risk." Well, they decide that this is too good to pass up, so they take the weekend and drive to the coordinates only to find an old abandoned cabinal in the woods.
It doesn't say cabinal.
I know, it's cabin.
That's your mouth typo.
Yeah. That's your mouth typo. The thickness of pine.
Shut up, Ryan.
The thickness of the pine trees make it so dark that even during the daylight, it's surprisingly dark outside. It doesn't take long before the 3 of them realize that there's just something not right about this place. There are no birds chirping. There are not animals rustling through the trees. The ground is covered in pine needles that haven't been disturbed in what looks like years. But forget that. I love how it's told in a very personal tone.
But forget that.
But forget that. They need people to smash that like button so they're willing to go. Man, I'm so glad. There's no commas here, but I'm pretty sure there should be a lot of commas. They need people to smash that like button so they're willing to go on and see what's going on in this place. They make their way into the cabin and begin almost immediately seeing strange things moving around, but it's always a little bit out of range of the camera.
Normal.
Strange noises happening all around them. Voices begin speaking to them from the darkness.
Check yours.
As time goes on, the things moving in the distance begin getting closer and closer. The noises and voices begin to become louder and louder. It all becomes too much, and the 3 friends run out, jump into the truck, and begin to drive away, only to have 3 dark figures slowly climb into the back of the truck. And as the 3 friends scream in horror, the camera fades to black. After they have been missing for a few days, people go looking for them, and their camera is found. Welcome to Night of the Skinwalkers.
And there's a little note here at the end.
Yes. On a true story note, near my hometown of Utah, there's a small ponderosa pine forest where a couple of my friends had an experience where they were driving through and had black figures try and climb into the back of their truck. Yeesh. They freaked out and sped only to have these figures disappear once they reached the edge of the pine tree forest. Yikes! I've heard a lot of stuff. That's actually...
That little bit was, I think, scarier than the rest of the original pitch.
Yeah, I have to agree.
And I think it's because I was like, okay, where are we going with this? with the YouTubers, and I think that's a good spin. It will be dated very quickly. Like when you start to do kind of modern technology.
Well, is this just basically a new way to tell a found footage story?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
But I felt like this was kind of the opening before the credits, and it didn't feel quite like. I feel like there needs to be a story here beyond that.
Actually, yeah. If there's a story about YouTubers, I'll want them to die anyways, like immediately. So if they die in the first 7 minutes, great. But these guys aren't going to die. Ryan, Kyle, and Nate all survive. So what do you think? So you guys would green like this as the beginning of a movie?
It feels like the beginning of an episode, right? Where it's like the thing that happens and the figures go into the back of the truck. X-Files. And then they kill him in the beginning, or maybe there's one survivor or something, right? And then you meet the real protagonist.
I also feel like the title Night of the Skinwalkers is a little misleading because there's no real skinwalkers that we at least see in this story.
Right.
So unless it's going to go farther than that, I can't greenlight this. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm not going to greenlight this as a full movie, but as a concept, yes, because I love the true story note.
Put it back in the oven, bake it for a little bit longer. This could be something good. That last little story.
Yes.
That was creepy.
Yep.
Because it's true. It's one of those true stories that creeps out. This one I'm going to be pitching for KP Brown. So he actually submitted a couple different ideas, and I asked him, which one would you want to do? And he said he would like to see an American remake of a Chinese...
Oh, so we have a remake story here.
Yeah, this is a remake pitch.
We did this last
year,
which
is fine.
Sure.
But he actually gave the Wikipedia summary of a Chinese ghost story that he said he saw it in Korea, and he loved the feel of it, would love to keep the Chinese mythology.
I love Asian horror.
So Ning Choi-san, a timid debt collector, goes into a rural town to collect debts but fails and runs out of money. He has no choice but to take shelter in a deserted temple in the forest of the outskirts of town. That night he meets a beautiful and alluring young maiden, Nip Su-sin, and falls in love with her. In the morning, however, after he recalls that night's events, he becomes increasingly fearful and superstitious because Ying Chika, a Taoist priest, told him that the people he saw in the temple are ghosts. That night he returns to the temple and confirms his theory that Nip is actually a ghost. Nip tells Ning her story of how she became eternally bound to the servitude of a sinister tree demoness. She explains as long as her remains are buried at the foot of a tree, her spirit will be there forever, enslaved by the tree demoness. Ning attempts to free her from her suffering, so he seeks help from Yin Chika.
Those darn tree demonists.
Demonesses, yeah. Yin fights with the tree demoness and attempts to free Nip's soul, but fails. As punishment for betraying his master, Nip's soul is banished to the underworld. Ning is unwilling to give up on Nip, and he insists that Yin help him. Yin reluctantly opens a temporary portal into the underworld and brings Ning along with the search for Nip.
I think I want to be Nip.
Okay. Nip's the girl, but okay.
I want to be Ryan.
Ryan's not in the story.
As the underworld is full of spirits and Kate Baconsales, that was my own thing. They have a hard time finding her. Ning and Nip are eventually able to see each other briefly near dawn when they manage to leave the underworld. When the sunlight shines on the urn containing Nip's cremated remains, Ning uses a curtain to shield the urn to prevent Nip's soul from being destroyed by exposure to sunlight. Before leaving for good, she tells him the only way to save her soul is to rebury her remains at a more auspicious burial site. Ning follows her instructions and, acting on Yin's advice, he buries her remains near the crest of a hill. He burns a joss stick for her and prays for her soul while Yin watches solemnly behind him. So that's the plot of the movie right there.
Yeah, it's a full movie. Now we don't need to watch it.
Well, and okay, so here's the thing. He put a trailer in here, and it was actually kind of cool to read this description and then go look for the trailer for, I believe it's just called a Chinese Ghost Story. So I recommend looking that up. Now, I kind of rushed through that because I have a confession to make. I want to read one of his pitches.
Okay, go ahead.
Because he added a joke pitch, and I thought it was so good, I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay, I'm listening.
With the death of her mom, Sophia Dorothy Zabornak needed to get a fresh start. Her desire drove her to leave the East Coast and move to Utah. Her friends, Rose Nyland and Devereaux, joined her for the new adventure. Then one night, a fateful car trip turned deadly. These three grandmas are now cursed to spend the afterlife driving around, joining their crazy hijinks as they hop into the lives of drivers they meet on the road. Golden Girls, the afterlife. They were friends for life. Now, friends for death.
Yes. So you just took the three grandmas and made them Golden Girls.
Which I was like, that makes so much sense.
I love that pitch so much.
So yes, I kind of cheated on that one, but I think, KP, that was probably the best pitch was the Golden Girls one. Because the Chinese one I think would be good.
It's too traditional. Right. It shouldn't be an American remake.
I was going to say it should stay subtitled in Chinese folklore and just recommend people to watch it. Because I think American remake is just going to water it down.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to greenlight the Chinese one, but I will greenlight the Golden Girls.
Me too,
the
so much. Absolutely.
Jacob?
No.
He's feeling harsh, everybody. He's feeling hesitant and harsh.
No, the Golden Girls, speaking of inside jokes, you probably should even reference, or you didn't really reference that.
Golden Girls was a TV show.
The three grandmas.
The three grandmas are a folklore that Kent made up to try to scare people.
I did not make up. It's real.
Yeah.
They're real.
But they drive around Centerville between the hours of 3 and 4
Yes.
in a station wagon wearing surgical masks.
Yes.
There you go.
Creepy.
Are you guys ready for the next story?
Yes, pitch it to us.
This is from Sean Sandquist, and this one is called Skinwalker.
Seems to be a theme.
A young boy, around 12 years old, on a rural ranch with his parents, probably about 30 minutes from any city or town. The boy helps his father around the farm with the livestock and other animals, but they have to be careful that predators don't get to their best source of income, their large flock of sheep. One night, just as they are all about to go to bed, the bleating from the herd sheep is heard. That sounds weird. Mixed with howls from what sounds like a coyote. The father then grabs a lantern and his gun and heads out to check on his flock before he leaves to tell his family to head to bed. The mother heads up to bed, but the boy can't sleep, so he goes out to wait for his father to return. It is a moonless night, and the sun watches from the porch as his father walks further and further from the house and disappears into the darkness. The boy continues to hear the sound of the sheep and the coyote. As he listens to the sound of the coyote, he notices that it doesn't sound quite right.
Because he pronounces it coyote.
That could be.
Jake says coyote.
Coyote. That's how it was, where I grew up, yeah. It almost sounds like a coyote's howl, but there is something off, almost like there is a human screaming in unison. The boy waits on the porch, clutching his gun. All of a sudden, he hears a gunshot pierce the silence of the night. He clutches the gun tighter and waits. After 10 minutes, his father still hasn't returned. The boy decides to head out to the pasture and look for his father. When he arrives, he sees his father standing still, facing away from him. Not a good sign.
No, this is already getting under my skin.
Yes.
The son runs to the father, looks at his face, which is motionless, staring ahead in the distance. The son asks his father if he is okay, but he still doesn't respond. The son shakes his father's arm, and all of a sudden his dad stares down at him and smiles.
Creepy.
A big, wide smile that almost seems abnormal.
A smile of a natural volume.
The boy again asks if his father is all right, and the father grunts.
Yeah.
The father wasn't a man of many words, so the son just shrugs this off. The father turns to leave, and as he does so, the boy sees something off. He could have sworn there was a flash of yellow in his father's eye. As they walk back to the house in silence, he notices that his father is walking a little funny, like his legs are heavier than normal, and he is almost dragging them across the surface of the ground. The father heads inside, and the son follows and heads to bed.
I wouldn't be able to sleep after that.
This is good.
The son wakes up while it's still dark out to go do his daily chores. As he walks past his parents' room, he notices that their door is open. Usually the father closes the door so his mother can sleep before he heads down for the morning chores. The son pushes the door open a little bit more, and then screams and pushes himself against the wall in the hallway. He had seen his mother, completely bloody and torn apart on the bedroom floor.
Jeez, Sean.
He finds his footing and runs, screaming for his father. He finds his father standing out in the barn. The boy, crying, grabs his father's arm and begs him to come help. Something has happened to mother. The father turns to the boy and smiles. The same abnormal, wide smile. Only this time, his white teeth and cheeks are stained with the red tint of blood, and his eyes are completely yellow.
Dude.
Like the eyes of an animal.
Get out.
The boy screams in horror and runs away from his father, and the father follows in his steady walk, dragging his feet.
That's creepy.
The boy gets back to the house, opens the screen door, and runs into something. He looks in astonishment at his mother, no longer bloody, standing in front of him. The boy begins to tell her that something is wrong with father. She looks down at him with yellow eyes and an abnormally wide grin. And he notices that her cheeks are sagging, almost like someone wearing a rubber mask that doesn't fit quite right.
An Edgar suit.
The mother then shakily raises one of her hands and smacks the boy hard across the face.
Hey.
The boy stumbles and runs back out the door, crying and screaming in horror, and sees his father dragging his feet steadily toward him. The bloody grin still on his face.
Is it British all of a sudden?
No, it's blood.
Bloody.
It's literally
Oh, okay,
blood.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Bloody grin. Wipe that bloody grin off your face.
The bloody grin. He runs away from his father and hears the screen door slam. He looks behind him and sees his mother stumbling out of the house while still staring ahead with a smile on her face. They're kind of like zombies, too. She stumbles down the stairs, gets up, and continues stumbling toward him with a smile.
Smiling zombies.
Smiling zombies, yeah. That should have been the name of it, Smiling Zombies.
Smiling zombies.
Or your band's name. The boy runs away from his parents and toward the pasture. He runs into the pasture and crawls on the muddy ground into the flock of sheep to hide himself. The sheep starts bleating, and the boy, while hearing...
Bleating, not bleeding.
Bloody sheep start bleating.
The sheep start bleating, and the boy, while hiding, hears the same howl as the night before, only this time there are two. They now sound more human than animal. The noises continue for several hours, and the boy waits in silence, crying and trembling. Around dusk, the noises stop, and he, again, only hears the bleating of the sheep. The boy raises his head above the sheep and doesn't see anything around him. The boy crouches back down inside the herd of sheep and sees that he is staring directly into his father's yellow eyes.
That gave me shivers. That gave me shivers.
He still has the same blood-stained grin on his face. The father opens his mouth like he is going to speak, but instead makes the bleating sound of a sheep.
Ew.
The boy screams and the father lunges toward him. This is a new paragraph. A man drives down the dusty road toward the ranch. He is preoccupied because the family from the ranch normally comes into town once a week to buy groceries and pick up their mail. He gets to the ranch and sees no sign of life. He goes to the porch and knocks on the door, and no one answers. Finally, he decides to open the door a crack. He yells inside, but no one comes to the door. He pushes the door open, letting light into the kitchen. Sitting at the kitchen table in the shadows, he sees a man and a woman who own the house. They are both sitting, staring blankly ahead. The man steps inside and walks toward them. They both look up and smile wide smiles at him. He notices that their eyes have a yellow tint when the sunlight hits them. He backs away and runs into something. He turns around and sees the couple's son, who stares up at him with yellow eyes. The boy smiles wide, so wide that the corners of his mouth split open, and his face starts to bleed. The boy lunges at the man and bites down hard on his neck, like a wolf biting a sheep.
Jeez.
Well, so I'm not going to be reading that one in Sunday school.
Sunday school. Or the other ones you might?
Maybe.
You let your kids listen to these shows, right?
Some of these shows.
Yes.
Some of these shows. If my nephew is listening right now, please don't listen anymore. I guess that already passed, so never mind.
So I'm trying to figure out what happened. Or
Go back in time and stop.
Is the mystery more fun for this story, or do we need a reasoning? Like, are these skinwalkers? Are these creatures? Are they wolves?
As a short story, I think it works great. If it's a movie, it's going to need a little more substance. But at the same time, I'm going to greenlight this because that was terrifying.
It was.
I really want to just give the boy a name.
It was Ryan.
No, I'm Ryan. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Nip.
Yes, you are. But yes, that's a definite green light because that one really kept my attention.
That was creepy.
No, there's some really good moments in that. This long.
Good job, Sean.
You know, I'm kind of thinking I'm wondering why Ryan would wait with the sheep until it got dark, because you never wait until dark. And it seemed like these people move slowly.
Ryan? This is Sean.
I know, but the character Ryan, who's now named Ryan.
Oh, the boy.
Why
the
he
boy
wouldn't
Ryan.
just run.
Okay.
Although our next pitch is from Ryan. So
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, that was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really, really
There's some
scary.
good moments, like when he's like, when he pokes his head out from the sheep.
And then goes back down.
And it goes back down and it's waiting. Yeah.
That imagery is going to haunt me.
All right, you guys ready for the next one?
Yes.
This one is actually from Ryan Farron.
Hey, who's on the show?
Yes, during a robot show. All right, here's the story. All right, so the story I'm about to read is based on a YouTube video which he sent over to us. And so...
Not a very convincing YouTube video, but okay.
Sure. But let's hear the story. Mary was late again. She dreaded the guilt trip her mother would give her when she got home. She could hear it already. You're an hour late. You didn't leave any food to make your kids dinner. They're starving. Your kids need their mother to be present more. On and on she'd go. Mary grabbed the grocery bags from the cart, letting it bang loudly in the cart return. Why the store didn't have cart returns in the parking garage was beyond her. So now she had to lug these heavy bags to her car. She entered the garage. The light was out here. She didn't notice that when she went into the store, but it had been light out, so there was no way to tell. Now it was dark in the corner, and her eyes couldn't penetrate the darkness. She increased her pace, wishing she had her keys out just in case there was an obfuscated attacker in the dark.
Big words, kid.
Yes. obfuscated in the dark. Don't be silly, she chided herself. She'd been watching too many Law & Order reruns. Perfect. Dum-dum. She rounded the corner. The lights were all on in this section of the garage. She felt safer. Arriving at her van, she quickly set the groceries on the ground so she could fish the car keys out of her pocket. As she bent down, there was a gust of wind above her head and a sense that she had just narrowly avoided being hit by something. All the car alarms started wailing and head and tail light flashing. Standing straight, she spun around once again, peering into the dark corner. This time with the intermittent flashing red lights, she was able to make a tall, dark shape. It started to move. She let out a scream, but she could barely hear herself over the blaring alarms and the pounding of her own heart. She wanted to flee, but she stood there, frozen in terror, as two red orbs appeared at what looked like a head on top of the dark shape. Then her feet, as if being controlled by someone else, started to carry her closer to the dark figure. Detective Jones liked living in Bozeman. It still had
What?
that... I definitely have breast cancer.
You can't just say that. You can't just say that and not say it's a reference to the room.
To the room.
It was such an abrupt change.
This is why I try to add a pause for effect.
I was into like, okay, what's going on in the parking garage, and all of a sudden we have Detective Jones in Bozeman.
Look, guys, it's not in paragraph form. It's fine. So I will add a longer detached pause there.
You just have to say new paragraph, even though that's not what's actually happened.
3 hours later. I did not kill her. I did not. Detective Jones liked living in Bozeman. It still had that small town feel, despite the recent growth and the weather. It just started to cool off, giving the morning air the perfect bite to wake you up.
I don't want to hear about bites after the last story.
Yeah, no joke. Jones, the captain yelled, gesturing for him to step into the office. There's an old woman sitting at your desk with her 2 young grandkids. The mother didn't come home last night, the captain explained. But before you go talk to them, I need you to see the surveillance footage the grocery store sent us. They sent it last night when they found an abandoned van with a full load of groceries sitting nearby.
Now,
What happened?
she disappeared.
And she was pulled to this figure.
I guess, but I watched the footage, Ryan, and I have to say, it was not convincing. Like, I watched it going, this looks like, kind of manufactured footage.
Right.
And she doesn't disappear or anything. What happens is it's this woman sitting in a parking garage. I think it's a woman, and she puts down her grocery bags, and when she bends over, this thing whooshes past her, and all the alarms start going off, and that's it. That's the video. And I don't feel like there's enough to go on this movie, so I'm going to say not green light from me.
I will say he made her far more than one-dimensional in the story.
Yeah.
Because he gave her the story, and the mom was kind of nagging her to be a better mom for the kids and everything.
Yeah.
And so it gave her a reason to go to
She
the
watches
store.
Law and Order.
Exactly. And so there's a lot going on, but there's too much mystery. I'm okay with not showing the monster totally or keeping everything a mystery, but there's too much mystery here. It needs to be fleshed out entirely, not green light.
Okay.
Jake?
I would greenlight these ideas actually because it's interesting, and like that feeling of something like going over your head, just barely missing. Mm-hmm. That's something I've felt before, but I've never heard it in like a horror context.
Well, it almost
before.
feels like Jeepers Creepers to me. Have you seen that one?
A long time ago.
Because that one, there's kind of a whooshing past you kind of thing that happens.
I do like we talked about this last year with the woman in the elevator. I do like that why'd
you bring her
I know,
up?
I had to. When there's a supernatural presence that's in our modern day.
Oh yeah, that was creepy.
And so when someone is acting in a strange behavior or the alarms are going off or whatnot, when something is caught on camera and no one in the story has no idea what's going on, or it's just a big mystery.
Yeah.
But for the movie viewer, that's too much of a mystery.
Okay.
So not green light.
Good feedback.
Yeah. That's what I do.
All right. This next one's from David Stewart. I'll be pitching. U.S. title, Dawn of the Dummies. International title, CPR doesn't save, it kills.
Yes.
The tagline, a single father of 2 discovers his desire to save life ends up only hurting the ones he loves.
I like that it has a U.S. and an international
I know, that's
title.
perfect.
That's pretty good.
Filming location, the wheat fields of Wisconsin, just after the Great Cheese Harvest.
Wow.
Heavens. Actors, you got Nathan Fillion, young Haley Joel Osment, young Dakota Fanning. I like he's going back in time with these.
Right.
Tom Cruise, Nick
You do
Offerman,
what he
Denise
wants.
Richards.
Yeah, it is.
Directed-
Hey, play by our rules.
I mean,
directed by
Tom
David
Cruise and
Lynch.
Nathan Fillion are in the same movie, so that's pretty much the same thing.
It's awesome. I like how Tom Cruise is like a supporting character, too. Directed by David Lynch, soundtrack by Daft Punk.
And I like that Nathan Fillion's character's name is Fred Gutierrez.
Wait, I like how Denise Richards, and he doesn't want back in time Denise Richards. He wants lunch lady Linda Denise
That's
Richards.
actually perfect. I love this story already.
All right, here we go. It's a single father of two is just barely getting by after his breadwinner wife dies in a car accident. To help feed his family, Fred becomes certified in CPR and cashes out his wife's insurance policy to help buy a set of nice CPR dummies off eBay. Do they really cost like an entire life insurance policy?
They might.
And I'm sorry, that would seem a little suspicious if you're cashing out this policy. I'm buying some CPR dummies. It's fine.
This includes a torsoless adult male, an anatomically correct female, Dave, a full-body child, and an infant. Little does Fred know his dummies were made by recycled plastic used in a mortuary in Louisiana. This plastic's horrible past results in a day Fred will never forget.
It probably ties back into the story, Joel.
Fred lands a job in a small town teaching his kids about CPR. He's extremely excited about his new opportunity. Not only can he feed his children, he can help the local community. The first weeks go great. He's happy about fulfilling his life and the life-saving skills he's teaching the local residents. A few weeks into his job, he's invited to teach CPR at his children's high school. He's excited not only to teach, but also to show off for his kids. The night before he teaches, his phone keeps going off. Whoever is on the other end keeps hanging up. Finally, he gets frustrated, yells into the phone, and then quietly hears, "Baby shark, doo 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 doo, baby shark, doo 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 doo." The voice is quiet, shaky, and eerily subtle. He's not quite sure what to make of it, but shakes it off, assuming it's a prank. The next morning, he shows up to his kids' schools, primed and ready to show the world how to save lives. As he pulls into the parking lot, he hears a slight shuffle from his trunk. He doesn't think anything of it. Principal Fitz, who, by the way, was played by Tom Cruise, remember?
Thanks for reminding me, actually.
Welcomes Fred to the door and shows him to the 11th grade classroom, his first stop. Everything goes well. The students are excited, laugh at the mouth-to-mouth performance, and he packs up and moves on to the 10th grade classroom. I don't think the anatomically correct thing is going to come up ever again, Jacob.
Full circle, Jacob.
We'll see.
Mr. Henry opens the door and shows him where to set up the CPR shop. As Fred is talking about what to do in the event of someone is choking, the small baby mannequin's leg twitches.
Ooh.
He doesn't notice, but a student in the back of the room does. He jumps up, scared, as the other students laugh at him. Fred continues the demonstration when the baby begins to twitch some more. This time, several students notice the movement. A girl begins to cry. Fred sees this movement out of his peripheral vision. In a split second, the baby is leaping onto Mr. Henry's desk. He grabs some scissors and begins to swing wildly at the students.
Wow.
Blood sprays across the door window. Dave!
Like, this is the worst thing we've seen in the stories.
Just saying. And at this point, it's every person for themselves.
Like how you keep calling him out.
I know him.
Dave, come on.
I know him.
I really hope we get back to the anatomic correct.
It's not going to happen. Fred abandons his dummies and bolts out the door, hustling as many students along with him as possible. In an effort to get everyone out of the building, Fred pulls the fire alarm. It's complete chaos as all the dummies are now fully animated, twitching and moving. At this point, Rob Zombie's Living Dead Girl begins to play in the background. A little editor's note for that.
Exactly.
These dummies, originally meant to teach life skills, are now reaping life for their own cruel pleasure. Fred remembers, but both of his kids are in the high school. Oh, good. I'm glad now he remembers. He scrambles in and out of the classrooms trying to find them. While looking, teachers and students are being sliced, bitten, grabbed, and deprived of their life-giving air.
Oh, that's good.
Good heavens, Dave.
This is like a Doctor Who episode, though.
This is like
honest.
a Dr. Matt
totally
episode.
is.
We need
Yeah.
Dr. Matt in this. Fred finally finds Angelina. I'm assuming that's his daughter, yes.
Young Dakota Fanning.
That's right.
Yes.
Hearing her scream from the lunchroom. Ironically, sloppy joes are on the menu. Meat splattering on the ground is shown against visuals of blood pooling up on cheap asbestos-backed tiles.
Oh, my word.
Needs therapy, Dave. Angelina manages to show Fred where Desmond is hanging out. They all run as a torsoless dummy waddles at full speed towards them. They manage to kick the dummy over, hold him down with a book bag, and get out of the school. As they leave, they can see Principal Fritz slumped over the rosebush, blood oozing out of his ear.
Bye, Tom.
Everyone is horrified by the lifeless, faceless dummies as they twitch towards their next victims. Fred realizes it's partially his fault, and he needs to take care of business. He goes back to his house and loads up on his doomsday arsenal. He grabs his SKS, machete, gas mask, pepper spray, and trusty Vietnam War surplus canteen.
He had a lot lot of time. While those kids are getting murdered.
Yeah.
At the school.
Of their life-giving air.
He's like, arming up.
It's like across the street, hopefully.
Yeah. Where was I? Oh, there we go. He sends his children into his backyard bomb shelter, hoping this will keep them safe. After hours of searching the roads, explosions, battles, and screams, he ends up back up at his house. This house? I'm assuming his house. This house to check on his children. Fred enters the bomb shelter to find his children at knife point by the toddler dummy. Not thinking twice about it, he grabs a canister of gas and begins to splash it over the dummy. The gasoline begins to cause the plastic on the dummy to melt. The CPR dummy begins to screech, wiggle, and writhe in pain. Before he can completely take care of the melted dummy, it hobbles away, screaming, "Swim away, doo-doo, 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 swim away, doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo." The end?
The end.
Is this a horror comedy?
It's gotta be. I mean, dummies. These are dummies coming to life, which, by the way, Dave, big missed opportunity, because one of the parts of that awful Baby Shark song that gets stuck in your head is one of them is they say, "Time to hunt, do.
Oh, yeah.
Do. They could have been singing that in unison as they're attacking people in the high school.
That is a missed opportunity.
And to not have Nicolas Cage in this movie is a huge missed opportunity.
It's not Nathan Fillion. Yeah, that
like
been
Nathan
good.
Fillion, sure, he's campy, but like Nicolas Cage, would
or
own
Bruce
this.
Campbell would be good in there too.
Maybe it's the principal. I would say it's the principal.
Instead
Yes.
of Tom Cruise.
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with
Although I think he hates Tom Cruise and wants to see
recast
him bleed from the ear.
Apparently he does.
Yes.
Because I don't think Tom would take that role.
But just imagine these dummies hobbling on the torsos.
CPR dummies. It just seems so campy though because of that Doctor Who episode with those mannequins. But still, I have to say I'm going to greenlight this.
I really hope that Sheriff Dunn and Deputy Rogers go to investigate this city at some point. And this is kind of an anthology. It seems exactly like something they would check
I think
out.
we have a future podcast on this.
Rogers and Dunn.
Sheriff Dunn, Deputy
But
Rogers.
I'm greenlighting it with the caveat that you must seek therapy, Dave, because the anatomically correct and the blood splatters and there's something going on here.
Dave,
pal.
you should have brought it back into it, okay?
As a full-on horror comedy, yes, I would greenlight this. I would see this and enjoy this in the most ironic way possible.
Okay. Jacob?
It feels like it would be a Doctor Who episode.
Yes.
And it'd either be one of those ones that were like terrible and you wish you'd never seen, or like one of those awesome standalones that you remember and quote. Like,
It could be terrible or it could be good.
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right, the next story I will be reading and representing is by Scott Sprague. Sprague. Sorry, Scott. It's been a long time, so I'd forgotten again. Sprague. It is fall 1986, Richmond, British Columbia.
Canadian horror.
Canadian horror, the scariest of all. Cindy finally made it home from a long shift working as a nurse at the local hospital. Although the hours were long, Cindy didn't mind, as it kept her away from home, where she had no one but her pets to keep her company. Poor Cindy. Pulling into the driveway, Cindy ran from her car to the front door with nothing but the porch light to illuminate the dark night. Why is she running? Upon opening the door, Cindy's stomach dropped. From the doorway, Cindy could see the flashing light of the answering machine, indicating that someone had left her a message. She didn't know who had left the message, but she knew the purpose of the message. She hit play. Cindy, dead meat.
Ugh.
This is the true story of Cindy James.
Now, this is a true story.
Okay.
And I actually clicked on that YouTube link to see
Can I hear it?
what the message sounded like. And I want you guys and the listener at home to hear it. You guys ready for this?
Okay.
No.
That is creepy.
That is
No.
creepy.
That is really
I
creepy.
just got the chills
And
like
this-
crazy.
This is a true story.
Okay, keep reading. I will not even interrupt this one.
4 months after separating from her husband in June of 1982, Cindy began receiving harassing phone calls from an unknown male. Sometimes he would stay silent, and sometimes he would whisper threats.
Like that one we just heard.
The phone calls turned into threatening notes. She would wake up to her phone lines being cut. She would find dead cats in her yard with threatening notes attached to them. Then, physical attacks began. In January 1983, Cindy's friend Agnes discovered Cindy on the ground with nylons tied around her neck.
Jeez.
Cindy hired a private investigator who gave her a two-way radio. Late one night, the PI heard strange noises on the radio. Upon arriving at Cindy's house to investigate, the PI found Cindy lying on the floor with a paring knife stabbed through her hand with a threatening note attached.
To her hand or to the knife?
It doesn't matter. She got stabbed.
I like how, like,
I'm trying to light it up because this is really creepy.
it seems like we're a little past the threatening note.
I
at
know,
this
yeah, a
point.
little
It's
bit.
like I
You've been
stabbed you through
stabbed.
the hand, stabbed through the hand, and there's a note to
keep
threaten
in mind,
you.
this is based on a true story.
She later said she saw a man enter her house before being hit over her head. Poor Cindy. In December 1985, Cindy disappeared. She was found 6 miles from her home with black nylons wrapped around her neck, cuts and bruises on her body, and suffering from hypothermia. She claims to have not remembered what happened.
This is true.
This is true.
Okay.
I actually did a lot of research on this after reading this pitch.
Ugh.
Cindy decided to move away and to change her name. She made friends with the Woodcocks. She frequently asked the Woodcocks to stay over. Once while staying the night, Cindy and the Woodcocks woke to the burglar alarm going off.
That was my band's name in college.
Cindy and the Woodcocks?
Yeah.
Huh.
I
think I listened to you guys, actually.
Yeah.
They found that the basement door had been removed, but could find no one. The following year, the Woodcocks were once again staying with Cindy. The three were woken up to find that the basement was on fire. They also found that the phone lines had been cut. Mr. Woodcock ran outside to ask a neighbor to call for help when he saw a man standing outside. Mr. Woodcock yelled for the man to call for help, but the man ran away. The police were involved, but they were always skeptical of the harassment. Was Cindy doing this to herself? Cindy would eventually be committed to a psychiatric ward as she became suicidal. She would stay in the hospital for 10 weeks. Cindy thought the ex-husband was the one to blame, but he always denied involvement. What was happening to Cindy? Who was doing this to her? On May 25th, 1989, almost 7 years after the first phone call, Cindy disappeared. Her car was found in a parking lot with groceries and a gift inside. Blood was on the car door, but Cindy was nowhere to be found. 2 weeks later, her body was found. Her hands and feet were bound together behind her back. A nylon was tied around her neck, but an autopsy would reveal that she died from a morphine overdose. The police would rule her death a suicide. Cindy's family believe that she was murdered. The coroner did not rule her death a suicide or a murder, but an unknown event. To this day, no one knows what happened to Cindy, only that she is truly That doesn't sound like a guy's voice.
No, okay, so here's the thing. The thing about this story is we could do an entire episode on this story because there is so many question marks here.
Baconsale, true crime. It's going to happen.
Because
that should happen.
Like she was having the harassment for years, and the cops kept saying it was her doing it to herself, that she actually either was looking for attention or that she had a split personality. And they kept saying that. And so like that phone call, when I listened to it, I'm like, that kind of sounds like a woman voice.
Right.
But then she called them, I think it said in a 2-year span, she called the police 90 times for harassment, for these unknown harassments. She got these letters.
Sure.
And but they kept saying it was her. And
she stabbed herself in the hand and
and tied herself up.
But then like when they found her body, her hands were bound. And like, I'm like, how can she commit? Then they said it was a suicide. And I'm like, how do you
And there kept being people around. There kept being a guy who ran away and everything like that.
I'm greenlighting this crap just so I can get an answer to this question.
I don't think you will, though, because it's still an unsolved mystery. I watched
in the movie. They'll try to do it.
This is fascinating.
So yeah, I'm going to greenlight it because it was one of those true crime stories that I went down the rabbit hole and learned a lot more than I should have because I was intrigued by the story.
Greenlight, because even after she changed her name and actually did the right thing to get away from that situation, whatever it was, kept following her.
She hired a private investigator who then moved in with her. Then she had a relationship with as he was investigating her harassment claims. It's so many weird things going on here. But,
there is.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So good. Okay, green light on that one. All right, the next one, this is the last one from the listeners, or the last one we're going to read tonight, is called Meme, and it's from Spencer Myers.
Meme.
New to a small town, Rick didn't quite know how he would fit in with the locals. All that he had ever known was now behind him. So when he was approached by a cute girl, he felt almost vindicated. And when she asked to show him a funny video, he felt like he was finally about to enter into her good graces. But the funny video wasn't all that he was expecting.
It's like most memes.
Right. I'm really sorry, her eyes seemed to say. He felt as if something had stuck with him. But what? He grew more restless as the days passed. In the wind, Rick thought he could hear a melodic voice in the wind. Give up, it seemed to say, drawing near. Soon people in town started to vanish, no one able to explain the sudden deaths of normally healthy people. Each day he felt the voice nearer, and near it grew. Give up. Almost as an accent to the rustle of the leaves and the never-ending bite of the winter's cold. Rick goes back up to his friend and asks her what the video was all about, and if she had any answers to the strange disappearances and the voice that almost daily grew.
I know what the video was.
It is now up to Rick to find out.
Baby shark, do 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 do.
It is now up to Rick to find out what is really going on in the sleepy town. The deaths, why that video seemed to now haunt him, and what that voice was that followed him. It seemed almost everywhere. Yearning for answer, driven mad by the voice that follows. Give up. It haunts Rick, and he'll open Pandora's box, seeking the answers. Up until what might be even the end of his own sanity, and maybe even the sanity of those he ultimately must sacrifice in pursuit of his answers, and before the voice catches up with him, pursuing these answers.
Or perusing these answers.
Yes, all that. Okay, so this is directed by James Wan, and he's going to go pretty classic here. So who did The Conjuring? It's starring Patrick Wilson as Rick Rollins, Vera Farmiga as the girl, Rick Astley as the voice.
Oh,
because he's never going to give you up.
I get it.
In fact, this story is... He sent me a template of this story, and it has to be outlined specifically because the first line of the first word in every line are the lyrics to the song. It is very specifically written, Spencer Myers, you are a crazy person.
No, wait. What do you mean the first word of each one?
It's not in this because this is in a Word document.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well done. You spent so much time to Rickroll us all. And this movie is called
pick up on that.
Rickroll or meme. But yes, we've all just been Rickrolled.
I'm not greenlighting that.
No, nobody wants to see that. But I would love to hear like a horror version of the Rickroll.
Yeah.
And like you don't really know what it is till the end.
Never gonna give you up.
Shakuse.
That is horrifying.
All right.
Hey guys, you know what? Thank you. And thank you, listener, for all of those submissions.
We enjoyed reading them. The ones we didn't get to, we're sorry. We did read all of them, though, off the air and mocked them all relentlessly. But, we only could mock so many on the air. And really, I want to say this. We did not treat these stories any differently than we would treat each other's pitches.
Yes, if you've heard any of our pitch shows, you know
that we
take forever mocking each other.
Yeah. Yep. It's just part of who the show is.
Yes, but thank you very much. We hope that you guys are okay with us, having a little bit of fun because now you can mock us.
That's right.
It's our turn to give our pitches.
Because it's not really fair. They do it, and without us, now...
They do it in the comments.
The table's turn.
Yeah.
All right, Joel, you're going to go first?
Yes, I'm going to go first. And man, pitches are not easy for me, but I had this idea... I wanted to go with it. It's a little out there, but I hope you guys will enjoy.
Is it a Rickroll?
Okay.
I cannot wait to.
Do we have a synopsis? Do we have a description? Who's in it?
I'm jumping right into it.
Okay.
Do we have characters with our names?
No.
Because if you don't, you should start over.
Would you like to add a deputy and a sheriff?
I think your story needs
Can
a deputy.
I read the pitch?
No, we never let you.
Elizabeth Kimball woke up in a daze in the middle of the street. She tried to figure out where she was and how she got there. She stood up and took inventory of her surroundings. She saw a broken down car not too far away. Next to the car there was an old rusty wheelbarrow and a boot caked in mud. The rest of the street was dark and empty. Nothing was making any sense. She saw a boardwalk near a lake in the distance behind her, the water lazily lapping in the moonlight, but still no other people. Suddenly a small dog ran past her legs. Elizabeth yelped and jumped, and then she heard someone softly laughing. Elizabeth looked up to see an old man staring down at her from a balcony a few stories up on a nearby building. He was dressed in a tuxedo and wore a top hat on his bald, shiny head. He leaned on his cane and grinned a toothy grin under his white mustache. He didn't say a word. He just kept giggling and staring. Elizabeth shivered and started walking up the street ahead of her, away from the peering eyes of the bald man. She spied a street sign which read Mediterranean, but that didn't help her know where she was. So she just kept walking ahead, trying to find someone who would help her and put that awful man further behind her. The cold air rushed through her, so Elizabeth pulled her coat tighter and felt an odd lump in her pocket. She reached her hand in and found a wad of money. She did a quick count and found that she was holding $1,500 in cash. She strained to try to remember where she had gotten it, but everything was a blank and it hurt her head to think about it. It felt like she had been there forever and she was so tired. So tired. Elizabeth walked past a few more blocks, past a string of dark houses, and came upon an old rail yard. A large Civil War-era cannon stood in the center of the yard among the interweaving tracks. As she stared at this unusual sight, a dark figure glided out from behind the cannon and rushed swiftly towards her. "You must leave this place now or pay the price," it growled. Elizabeth screamed and ran away. She glanced behind, but the shadow wasn't following her, so she slowed down and caught her breath. She then realized that she was standing outside a prison on a street corner. There were windows all along the wall, and in each window was a prisoner with his hands on the bars, staring at her, not saying a word. Elizabeth froze in fear. "Stop looking at me," she screamed, but none of the prisoners moved. They just kept staring. And then she heard faint laughing behind her. She turned to see the bald man walking slowly towards her, his cane tapping on the pavement. Elizabeth had no choice but to run again, to keep moving forward. Then, next to an abandoned utility building, she saw an old hotel with a lamp glowing in the window. She tried to go inside, but the front door was locked. Then a police officer appeared from a nearby alleyway. "Oh, thank goodness," Elizabeth sighed. "Please help me. I'm lost and I'm scared and I don't know what's going on." The officer smiled. "Do you own this place?" Elizabeth cocked her head, confused. "No." "Do you want to?" the officer replied. "What?" Elizabeth said. "The hotel, the property, it's for sale," the officer said. "It could all be yours." "You want money?" Elizabeth yelled. "Here." And she pulled the $1,500 from her pocket and held it out towards the officer. "Oh no," he said calmly. "I don't want your money. You have to pay the banker." "Who's the banker?" she yelled after him. "What is going on?" The police officer scowled. "I think you'll have to come with me." Elizabeth was taken to the prison she saw earlier in the night and, despite her protests, was locked in a cell by herself. As she sat there, the inmates in the other cells wouldn't stop staring at her. She shook the bars on her cell door. "Let me out!" she cried. And then the inmates started whispering, "It's not your turn, Elizabeth. Wait, your turn." Elizabeth plugged her ears, closed her eyes, and curled up on the small bed in the corner of her room, wishing it would all go away. She must have fallen asleep because when she woke up, a few hours had passed. As chance would have it, she spied a small card lying on the small table in the jail cell. She picked it up and examined it, confused, and realized it was a security badge. Then she noticed a small keypad next to her cell door. She pressed the card to the keypad and the door swung open. At first, she tried to sneak out of the jail as quietly as possible, but then she noticed that no one was taking notice of her walking out. They all kept their heads down. It's as if they were allowing it to happen. She burst out the doors onto the abandoned street and was horrified to see that the bald man was there waiting for her. She turned and ran away from him. Further up the street, her brief bout of sleep giving her renewed energy. However, after many blocks, her legs were exhausted, her lungs were crying for air, but she didn't want to stop. She didn't want to see those faces staring at her again. She didn't want to see the bald, grinning man. She just kept running and running. Then, just beyond another sign that read Pennsylvania Avenue, she noticed the same boardwalk she saw when she first woke up. Somehow, she had gone in a circle. Then she heard the now familiar tapping of the bald man's cane, followed by his quiet chuckling. Elizabeth ran, but she had nowhere to go now. She had reached the end of the boardwalk. The bald man slowly walked towards her. Tap, tap, tap. She considered jumping in the water, but before she could, he was at her side, smiling and laughing quietly. She could feel his breath on her shoulder. "What do you want?" Elizabeth cried. "I want to give you your salary, Elizabeth," he calmly replied. "Here it is, $200. You may go now." Then he vanished right in front of her eyes. And suddenly she was back staring at the sign for Mediterranean Avenue next to the car, the wheelbarrow, the boot, and the dog. Forever caught in the bald man with the top hat's never-ending game of psychological torture.
Woo! Woo-hoo-hoo! Yay!
The question is, listener, how far along until you figured it out?
Yeah. I figured you guys got it pretty quick.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is something. And then Ken had it
I was thinking Mr. Peanut for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then there's a white mustache.
Yep.
And then, Mediterranean Avenue.
It didn't say Avenue at first.
Oh, it didn't. It just said Mediterranean. Oh, my gosh.
By the way, it's going to be directed by David Lynch because it's a psychological thriller. The title is Uncle Pennybags.
Oh,
that's nice.
It's Monopoly, guys.
Yeah.
It's Monopoly. For those of you who didn't pick up on it yet. The Uncle Pennybags will be played by Matt Lucas, who you may know from Bridesmaids, Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah, he's creepy.
Yeah. And then Elizabeth Olsen is going to be Elizabeth.
Oh, perfect.
By the way, Elizabeth Kimball, Thimble.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah.
Hey. And you actually put so much freaking thought into this.
There was a lot of Monopoly research. In fact, the name Elizabeth is because Elizabeth Maggie created the Landlord's game, which was the grandfather of Monopoly. So it all comes together.
Joel, I'm going to say that was kind of a long pitch.
It was very long.
Yes.
It was much longer than I anticipated it to be, but once I started writing, it just kept pouring out of me.
That is possibly the best board game to movie adaptation that could ever be made.
I want to know, you listener, how soon did you catch on to what was going on? Because I was almost bugged that we had What's His Bucket's pitch right before this.
Oh, yes.
The joke pitch, because I was like, dang it, it's exactly kind of like mine. But, oh well.
The thing I love is if you've ever played the game PT on the PlayStation. It's kind of a residual haunting that you just have to go through a hallway again and again and again.
Yeah.
And that's what I love, the horror of never being able to leave somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it'd be perfect for Monopoly. And this movie would have to be 7 hours long.
That's what it's like playing Monopoly.
Yes.
Just nonstop.
Until someone is a table swiper. I hope that someone who saves the day is a table swiper. Yes.
Yeah.
Green light. Jake?
Yeah, I'll have to greenlight
Yeah.
that.
And just like, it has to be played so serious, like not even funny at all.
You know what? Again, a good Doctor Who episode.
Yeah. Stuck in a board game. I can see that.
Yeah.
I'd also accept
Wonderful.
Supernatural.
But
Okay.
I knew I was trying to go for scary, and I'm like, I got nothing. So then I went with joke. So,
But like, it needs to be played straight, like I said. It needs to be a scary Monopoly
does.
movie.
yes. All right. So
Can't we've actually run out of time?
I know.
You've only got 45
Good night, everybody.
seconds. Just to give us an idea of what yours was, then we're going to go.
Don't do that to me. Don't.
You
do
haven't
that.
looked forward to this.
How
for-
long is your pitch, Kent?
It's about as long as yours.
Oh, crap.
Yes. You ready?
Yes.
So I have actors and I have a director as well. My main actor's name is Don, and he'll be played by Donald Gleason.
Okay.
His wife, Julie, is played by Yvonne Strahovski, who is Sarah from Chuck.
Yeah.
And is directed by Jennifer Kent, who did The Babadook.
Babadook.
So here's the synopsis. Don seems to have a happy standard life, spending his time with his wife and son, or going out with his friends. Though when he sees something out of the corner of his eye, there's no place worse than home. Because sometimes when you look into the darkness looks back.
That's the tagline? Or like
That is the IMDb synopsis.
Oh, nice. You went far on this one.
It's what I do. The movie opens up, and we have the classic horror opening, and you see the opening credits come up, just like old school 70s movies, and you get a slow-moving tour of a house, going through the hallway, going through the living room, going through the kitchen, but the end of the credits starts at the top of the stairs, and it's a slow-moving zoom down the stairs to the basement, yet you see only darkness at the bottom.
Jacob, he's doing camera movements in his pitch again.
Yeah, he is. He's describing the camera.
Guys, it's what I do!
I know.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Movie begins. Page 1.
It's like exterior night.
I know. Don wipes his eyes, trying to shake the image of what he saw out of his head. His wife is calling for him to help get their son to bed. He looks down the stairs again and says quietly to himself, I could have sworn I saw something. He then goes on to help his wife. As he lays in bed that night, the last image that he glimpses behind his closed eyelids is the shadowy figure standing at the bottom of the stairs, looking up. On day 2, Don is having a conversation with his coworkers in the break room about weird dreams they've had lately. When they ask Don if he has had any, he says, I had a dream I was being watched. His friend interrupts. I'm always watching you, Don. The attempt at humor falls flat. Anyways, Don continues, it wasn't like there was someone outside my window watching me or even someone watching me while standing over my bed. Instead, it just felt like there was a thing somewhere in my house that knew exactly what I was doing. And it didn't even have to be watching me. It was just happy I was there. He stops at the bar before he gets home for dinner. Julia has already fed their son and has been waiting for Don.
I don't want him happy that you're there.
He apologizes and tells her that he's had a lot on his mind, and she asks if he's all right. He is looking downstairs, and he sees it again. He can't deny what he saw twice in the very same place. He stays at work late the next night and gets home around 7. This is day 3. He calls out for his wife and son, but no one is home. He texts her, and she lets him know they ran to McDonald's. Suddenly, he gets to the stairs. He stops dead in his tracks and quickly shuts his eyes. If I can just get past the stairs without looking, I'll be just fine. Whatever it is, it just hangs out at the bottom of the stairs anyways. And sure, I've seen something, but it doesn't really affect me, and nor should it. He keeps his eyes closed. Somehow, that makes it worse. In the short 4 seconds it took to dart back to the garage and drive away quickly, he couldn't help but think he was completely vulnerable. He avoided looking down the stairs for the next 2 days. On day 6, Don puts his son Jason down for the night and is watching a show in the other room. Just then he hears a door creaking. Fearing nothing at this point and having a fading memory of the scare earlier in the week, he goes to check on Jason, but also mostly to replicate the sound he just heard. He checks on Jason and he moves the door slightly to get the same creak. Yes, it creaked, and I'm pretty sure that's the noise I just heard. Nice.
Now press X to Jason.
Yes, exactly. He turns back down the hallway, heading to the TV room. Without fear, he intended to look down to the basement. As the wall ended and slid downward, he quickly darted his head around the corner looking down. It was staring at him. And it was halfway up the stairs. Before Don could scream, it was gone. That didn't stop Don's surprise from knocking him backwards into the TV room. He didn't bother to get up and turn on any lights. He just lay there on his side, crying. Okay, so I'm going to pause here real quick.
Okay.
This is half my story. The thing is halfway up the stairs. Each day, it is coming up the stairs one step at a time. So I haven't written the rest out because this is a story I'm actually writing.
And that's the thing is, as soon as I realized what story this was, I started to get chills because you told me about this story before.
Yes.
On one of our walks, I think you told me the story.
Yeah. And I told this to Jake a few years back.
And it's creepy. This is a creepy story.
So I'm going to give you some details of what will happen in this story and maybe even the ending if you guys want it. So, as just some follow-up, the next night, Don sees his son playing on the stairs, and of course, at this point, he is terrified. And he's like, no, get off the stairs. And he looks, and the thing is standing right above his son on the 7th step, smiling at his son. Like, almost arm outstretched. And so then Don is like, what is going on? Why is this only happening to me? Why is it gone the next second? It really is just like, is it something teasing him? And so he tries to fix everything in his life, because his life is kind of a mess. You know, his wife's always disappointed in him. He, goes to the bar whenever he can. He tries to avoid his family at times, so he tries to fix his life. But in the meantime, his wife Julia takes their son to her sister's, leaves the house because she's frustrated with the way Don's acting, and he's so focused on this thing, trying not to get it from stop coming up the stairs. And here's the thing. He fixes everything he can, but it takes him until day 11. There are 12 steps. Okay, 12 steps in the stairway.
And also with AA.
Yes, exactly. But on day 11, he sees it on the second to last stair, almost face to face with him. This thing's wearing a light, like shabby gray suit. It kind of looks like the thing from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Nice tie-in.
And he sees it. He almost gives up hope. But guess what? He's already fixed a lot of things in his life. And on day 12, when he thinks this thing is ready for him, it's still there on the second to last step. And it never comes closer. It's always on that step. He goes crazy, and he moves to a place. He can never live anywhere with stairs that are coming up again. It's always ranch homes, ramblers, or whatnot. His wife eventually leaves him, takes their son.
Because women hate ramblers.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it's 20 years later. Do you guys want to hear the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're this far.
It's 20 years later. He goes to the funeral for his wife, who just passed away. He shows up. And his son is obviously mad at him for how his father basically abandoned the family and got a little crazy. And he gets in a huge fight with his son. Don goes home, goes into his room, and starts drinking. Takes a drink. And as he's sitting there, just sitting on the floor, just miserable and depressed, he hears a knock right on his bedroom door, which was closed. And he knows what it is. Scene changes. All of a sudden, Jason comes in to go check on his dad because they got in a big fight. And grown-up Jason at this point, he opens, goes in the house. Dad, are you here? Dad, where are you? Opens up the bedroom door and sees this emaciated figure that looks just like the thing coming up the stairs, dead on the ground.
Man.
So Jason's about to go call 911, but he's like still fuming. He's angry at his dad. Then all of a sudden, he walks by and he kind of looks in the distance and looks down, thinks he hears something. And there, about 137 stairs down, something's coming up the stairs for him.
Wow.
Okay.
About 137?
Let's just say
a lot of stairs. What
that's
house
the thing.
has 137 stairs?
I'm saying these
House
are
of Leaves.
These are demons. These are your own personal demons that could be at stair 1000. They could
so
be
it's like a
every day of your life. There's
an imaginary staircase.
Yes,
not imaginary.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
Metaphorical staircase.
Yeah, okay.
But there is a demon that is coming to get you, and fate will get you eventually, based on what your vice or demon is.
Jeez,
and Jason's story or Jason's vice is the anger at his dad.
Okay.
And this story is called 12 Steps. It's very in your face, not subtle at all, but I've always been chewing on this idea. I'm going to finish writing it, and then we'll eventually record an episode and, play it. But
cool.
Yeah, it's 12 steps.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, that took a serious turn near the end. Went from Monopoly to alcoholism, which is the natural course of the board game. You play Monopoly,
it's a longer show.
Drink. Yeah. Good heavens, fellas.
Yeah.
Well, this I was going to say, this was a fun episode to do.
Yes.
We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed recording it, because we had a good time. Thank you for your submissions again.
So
we really
much.
appreciate it. And we hope you're enjoying your Halloween season. But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter. You can find me performing with Quickwits. They perform every Saturday night at the Midvale Performing Arts Center. For more details, go to qwcomedy.com or go to the Quickwits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. If you want to read my movie reviews, it's ShowtimeShowdown.com.
You can find me on Twitter at Jacob A. Rogers, as well as Baconsale on Twitter, at Baconsale, on Instagram, at Baconsale, and on our Facebook page. Go like us there. Leave us a review on iTunes. If you want to get some of our merchandise, there's some new stuff there. In fact, there's even some new Halloween festive
very cool
shirts. Yeah,
from Ninth Mountain Threads.
Yep, so that looks pretty cool. Go check that out. That's tpublic.com/Baconsale. And as always, you've got, as we mentioned at the beginning, you got 9 days left to cash in on Kent drawing you a picture. And he doesn't even want me to advertise this because he's so behind.
Yes.
So if you do want to torture Kent, go join Patreon, patreon.com/Baconsale. And if you'll notice, I did not have a pitch tonight, but just as a little teaser, next week, listener, I'm going to be in charge of that episode.
Yeah.
And Joel and Kent do not know what's coming.
I can't wait.
And that'll be the end of our Halloween.
So until next time, baby shark, do 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 do, j'accuse.
But if you make it to the end of this show, and I think you should, you feel like you're already going there.
You're going there.
You laughed. You're an accomplice.
Carlo Gugino.
This time he died.
Oh, that was abrupt.
Yeah, that was actually a run-on sentence too. The possession is made easier when someone is high on weed.
Alzheimer's.
There's no T in there. Alzheimer's.
J'accuse. From the microphone.
Jump out of bed and stumble to the kitchen. Pour myself a cup of ambition and yawn and stretch and try to come to life.
I don't know this song, but I like it.
Working 9 to 5.
What a way
is
to
this
make
the sound of music
living.
too? But how much is a natural amount of volume is what I want to know.
So when I pursue a woman, am I really perusing?
It depends.
A woman?
It depends. Unabashedly, I like Gilmore Girls. I like that.
I'm into that.
You perusing that? Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's.
We have most advanced algorithm for checking grammar.
We're not on salary, done.
If there's a story about YouTubers, I'll want them to die anyways.
I think I want to be Nip.
But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76.
Holy freak goodness.
Yeah. Holy freak goodness.
Holy goodness.